President Bola Tinubu has summoned the Minister of Interior, Mr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, to the presidential villa following allegations of a 438 million naira consultancy contract awarded by the embattled Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, who is now suspended. The contract meant for the National Social Register to aid fund disbursement to the vulnerable was allegedly granted to New Planet Projects Ltd, a company with ties to Tunji-Ojo. Edu, facing suspension for diverting 585 million naira meant for grants, is under investigation for channeling the funds into a private account. Now, just to reiterate that Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo had come highly praised in the past few weeks because of the impact that he's had, with the passports, with the influence that he's had with regarding making the passport process easier, passport application and collection process easier, and the refurbishing we're seeing happening with Nigeria immigration. But unfortunately, this then adds a stain to his record. And this is, of course, for people who would argue. I mean, there have been several arguments, some for him, some against him. And so those for him would say that, at least he's working, it could have been a mistake. He stepped down. He's come out to say that he stepped down as at 2019. So he stepped down as a director, I believe, of the company. But what we will say is that there is conflict of interest. So long as you are one of the shareholders in that company, the company should not be benefiting from the federal government, from any government contract, because what that looks like is you are being paid twice. There's conflict of interest there. So I don't know how that will work out well for him. We've heard of closed meetings he's had with the president, and I'm sure that more investigation will be done. And we'll talk about this much later. We'll be joined by a political analyst who will delve deeper into this and give us further insight.
Yeah, and my views still stand. Yes, he said that he stepped down in 2019 when he got into National Assembly. And of course, his wife still remained a director in the company. It's been a company, he said, has been in existence for 15 years. He stepped down and then, of course, became a shareholder. But like you've said, according to the Code of Conduct Bureau, there's still, of course, conflict of interest. And the company has no business bidding for federal government contract, while he is there. And, as long as you're a shareholder, you will still be benefiting from it. And
not just even him being a shareholder, his wife is a director.
His wife is a director, exactly. So there's some conflict of interest that, I feel like he may have gotten wrong. But again, these things, are as clear as daylight. My challenge here is the news report, that he has been summoned by the president. And it basically tells the kind of system that we still run, that agencies of government almost do not function without the president giving a go-ahead. Or, they maybe, would ignore certain issues because the president has told them to ignore it, which is dangerous for our democracy and dangerous for the institutions and the strength of our institutions. And that is why, if you remember, days after the Betta Edu scandal occurred, I think it was yesterday or the day before, she went to Aso Villa.
Well, in all fairness, she had been trying to go to us to see the president since the 2nd of January, according to reports.
Okay. But it still, was her going to the president. I mean,
to explain herself.
To explain herself. And that's what it looked like. Whether she was going to see him for a different reason or not, nobody knows. But it seemed like, now there's chaos, so let me run to the president and go on, the person who appointed me, and go and figure out ways that I can get myself out of this problem, which shouldn't be. The president also shouldn't be summoning Tunji-Ojo. You have no business with him. You've appointed him. If he has erred, by the Code of Conduct Bureau or by the anti-graft agencies, they should handle it. And that's why they've been set up. The president shouldn't be the one to give a go-ahead whether they should handle it or not. And if you're going there to go and explain yourself, it doesn't stop the anti-graft agencies from doing their work. And that's the challenge that I feel that we have, with the separation of powers and this whole conversation. Don't be frolicking with, a person who has been accused of corruption. It's almost the same thing with when Babachir Lawal had his issue with the grass cutting scandal, and then, of course, he was still claiming that he was still the Secretary of the Government of the Federation and was asking who is the president. Because of this relationship, because they feel that because they have this close relationship with the president, then, they're untouchable, which is not a good look. We have Ezekiel Nya-Etok, who's joining us from the nation's capital, Abuja, where all the action is taking place. Good morning, Mr. Nya-Etok. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Just last night, I left Abuja for Uyo, so I'm still current with the effects of Abuja.
I guess the FCT was getting too hot.
more settled and comfortable in a more peaceful environment.
Okay. Tell us what's going on, all right, in the FCT before you left. Did you meet with any of these persons who are embroiled in scandals? And what are your thoughts, basically, on the Minister of Interior, Tunji-Ojo, and the challenges he's having with the Code of Conduct Bureau, as it seems?
Okay, there are two things. The very first is I want to briefly touch on your earlier topic, if it's okay by you, the issue of the president cutting down on cost. I want our government not to be cosmetic, but to be real. And if you look at the cost, like what is in the budget, the travel stuff is about, I think it's neighborhood of about 16 billion or thereabout. And even if you take off 60%, it comes down to nothing. We know where the cost in governance is. If you want to cut cost, it's a good step. Don't get me wrong. It's a good step. But call people like us to come and tell you the Orasian report where you should cut cost of governance, where we have bloated, where our money is going into. Let's do a synthesis of the budget and we can tell you. But one thing is sure, it's a very good first step. Now, coming down to what is happening in Abuja, it's more like 1 day, 3 troubles. It's supposed to be 1 week, 1 trouble, but it's like 1 day, 3 troubles. But I also like what is happening. And I want Nigerians to know that there is a shaking that is beginning. There's something, there's a sound of the going on the tops of the mulberry trees. There's something that is happening, and it's on account of the prayers that Nigerians have been praying, okay? Now, with that of the Interior Minister, I happen to have, I wouldn't say a direct relationship with him, but there's a level you reach in this country and you have access, general access. And this guy, in 2019, says he had sent in a letter, all the documentations where he withdrew himself from the involved company and he brought certified true copies. Now, what happens is that usually we don't know how things are going to move into, so he sent documentation to the Corporate Affairs Commission and they don't do a regular update. They ought to have the ICT platform where updates are regular. And then you can't have something that was done in 2019 not being reflected in 2024. That's about 5 years span. If that issue was reflected and he was no longer seen as one of the people in the company, one of the interests, then maybe the direct correlation between him and this company and the bribe, not bribe, please, and the scandal, that's what it is right now. It wouldn't be the way it is. But if it had not been the way it is, it probably would not even generate the interest it is. But I think that, like the Bible says, all things work together for good. A lot of things are going to just keep happening just to escalate certain things. And Betta Edu happens to be somebody I wouldn't directly call a friend, but somebody I've had some level of sympathy for a while. And she happens to have gotten herself, and it's good it happened to her. Are you aware that the humanitarian minister, the former humanitarian minister, the 44 billion was talked about, which is about less than 2%, about 1.5% of the 500 and something billion, because 500 is just half of a billion. And then you talk about 44 billion and half a billion effectively. So how come that of Betta Edu came up and became so sensational? Is because of the persons involved. So many things are going to happen and wrapped around certain personalities so that it will come to the public fore, and then we'll be able to escalate the matter. And then Nigerians, there's a way that Nigerians are going to get into. You see, government works on what they call lines of least resistance. So let these things come up because we are sick and tired. Enough is enough. The time has come when God is going to use every avenue to escalate issues so that people wake up.
Yeah, Mr. Nya-Etok, do you think, do you agree with those who say that the Betta Edu's case is not a singular, case? This has been happening for so long, and hers is really just unfortunately, has just been fortunately or unfortunately exposed. And that's why we're having this conversation. Will suspending her, or maybe even sacking her, will it end the main problem that we're seeing here?
You know, the Bible says, and it came to pass. And I said, the countdown has begun. But you see, God is a strategist. He knows how to escalate issues and where to press the buttons. We can't continue the way we've been. You know, what she's done is going to annoy some people because it's like a drop in the ocean. It's like a peck of the iceberg. But we need to start somewhere. Let the countdown begin. Somebody said yesterday, and I found it very interesting, that the journey to the sky starts with the first step on the stone. You understand me? I mean, look at where the sky is and the first step on the stone. But think about it. It's actually the truth. It might be slow as the widow bakes a cake or as fast as the ravens fly. But the fact is that let there be a start. And let Nigerians not take the foot off the pedal, because you know, there's this general notion within government that just give it 2 weeks and it will die. Let the media sit on it. Let other aspects start to get exposed. A stage will come when the president will have no excuse, no reason. And while this is mounting, let the opposition start to build. Because where he thinks that you can't do more than a dead rat, do you understand me? Then he won't be touched. But our president is very, very, very conscious of his political interest. So there's got to be a two-way prong. Nigerians got to put pressure on him, and the opposition's got to put pressure on them. They keep telling Nigerians, you see this, you see that. He's going to now come to tell Nigerians that, look, I'm a no-nonsense guy. I'm the guy that you want. I'm the sheriff in the town. And he's going to start to do the right things, and Nigeria will be the better for it. That's going to be the beginning of getting Nigeria sanitized. And I'm happy that the effort that she made to see the president was rebuffed. It was a good thing the president did by making sure she didn't come to her. He's going to let others also know that, man, this party guy may not work for him. Oh. So people are going to start to be careful and conscious. And that era of impunity, if we mount the pressure constantly, will start to die down. And that will be the beginning. I see it again.
Do you think that, as quickly as possible, do you think that Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo his situation might end up like that of Betta Edu? Or do you think he'll be able to weather the storm?
There are two things about his case, and I would like us to isolate these two things very clearly. Number one is, do you have an interest in this company? Number two is, did you in any way influence, by way of your position as a minister, a company in which you allegedly have interest? In the first count, he's going to smell like a rose and nothing is going to catch him, because he did present the CTC of his withdrawal from the company. He has that. So that works for him very well. And I think that people should learn to have foresight and see tomorrow. He did have foresight. And secondly, I have a soft spot for him, because this thing is doing about passports. You know, I doff my hat for him, and trust me, I will be his cheerleader. But if he does something wrong, he's going to go in for it. But for this case, number one is that he was smart enough to divest all interest in that company legally and officially with an authenticated, you know, what you call the certified true copy. So any legal system you take against him is going to win. That's number one. Number two, did he influence? Let me tell you, see, you can be smart by half. You know, I can withdraw myself from, I run a company called Novon Consult, and I can easily withdraw myself from being a part of that company, but maybe my son or my uncle or my relation is taking care of my interest in that place. So officially, you can't see my hand in the cookie jar, but somehow you see that the cookie is in my mouth. But you've got to open my mouth to see that it is there. So what am I trying to say? In the second part, it's neither here nor there, because you cannot, number one, it's a formal company that has every right to bid for any job in Nigeria and get and do. So on their right, have they been getting such jobs? If you profile the company in the past, and you discover that they've been doing well and they've been doing such things. So getting something like this is based on the fact that they meet all the necessary criteria for that job. If that be the case, the fact that this guy was a member of that company and now he's no longer there should not deprive the company of being able to bid for jobs in Nigeria and get it done. Did they bid for it properly? Did they get it done properly? Was the pricing right? If all the lines, the boxes are ticked, the guy is going to go home free.
Well, Mr. Nya-Etok, maybe some will not agree with you. They will still argue that there's conflict of interest. But at the end of the day, we can share our thoughts.
No. Let's be legal.
Yeah.
There cannot be conflict of interest in. Okay, I'm known in Nigeria, in all humility, as somebody who has broken lots of barriers in the area of housing, and that's my company. I'm now made maybe the head of a parastatal, and I leave. And that company with the track record, you cannot say that company cannot bid for issues on housing and get it done. You can't say that because I was involved. So there are no. But when you look at the track record of the company, you look at the processes of procurement of that job, and you look at the performance, you look at the cost. If all these on the right.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but in a few days, I'm sure we will find out what exactly will be the fate of Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Friday.
That guy is a nice guy. Let no politics happen to him. Thanks so much, and God bless you.
Have a good day.